thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. It's so lovely looking at all of you. It's a window full of, very, very artsy, articulate, and very, very talented people. Why I said artsy, not in a very, very negative impact, because people tend to slot it in a certain way. I have a reason to say that, and we will probably, go on in the conversation, and then I'll probably call it that. But I'll start with, Rasika and Mukul first. Husband and wife together, both of them prolific actors. लेकिन इतनी देर लगी आपको एक साथ स्क्रीन पे लाने में, and all thanks to Karan, or should I thank Nakul?
Me? No, I know this is, first of all, this is not the first time we have acted together. We've done 2 ads together. No, 2 ads, we've done 1 ad. 2 ads. 2 ads together we've done. We've done another film we shot in the lockdown. So that was shot after Fairy Folk. So I mean, I have to say that. Yeah, so we have done stuff together. आप लोगों ने देखा नहीं है?
Yeah, if you haven't watched Banana Bread, it's the most watched film in the lockdown. I started making banana bread after watching Rasika and Mukul in that film.
Okay, I'll have to actually go and see that. But it's really interesting, when you were about to join Nakul, I asked them that, are you guys not in, one of you is not in Bombay? So they said, we are professional people, we are sitting in 2 different rooms and having this conversation. But you guys are in the room together, and this is India's first ever improvisational, new age, fantasy, fairy folk. I mean, I'd have too many adjectives to put in when we're talking about fairy folk. How does this happen?
Karan came home one day and said, Rasika, do you want to do another film together? And I said, okay. That's how it happened. Karan and I had worked on a film previously many years ago, which had released in 2012, right, Karan? 2011 is when we did the festival rounds. We had premiered at the Chicago International Film Festival, and it was a film called Share, which was in black and white, and it was produced very independently. I remember there were days of shoot that Karan would take me on his bike and we would go to Bhayandar to shoot. That's how we shot that film, with a crew of 3 people at best, or 4 at best actually. So we done this film together, and that was my first lead role. And I think Karan and I had a good time working together, even though we fought lots. But so many years later when he said, chalo aur ek film banate, I said, theek hai, chalo. And that's exactly how it happened.
He said, हाँ, लड़ने में फिर से मजा आएगा. ठीक है, चलो. And Mukul, what about you?
Yeah, Karan came home and he said, I've got this film idea. Do you want to do it? And I mean, I of course was introduced to Karan through Rasika, through Share. When I first met Rasika, I remember she used to suddenly say, actually, they already shot the film, that shot Share, but she used to say, I'm going tonight for dubbing. She used to go in the middle of the night. They used to dub for like a few hours at a time in the middle of the night in some place and come back, because, this shows how...
He didn't have a dubbing studio. So Karan had hooked up some wires in between 2 rooms in his house. And so we had to dub in the middle of the night, so that that was the only way to soundproof a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think Green Fields also, we did it like that. I think with her, it's like night we had to do, because sunlight would come in and then we had to block it all out. So it's just easier.
Yeah, so that was my introduction to Karan, and I got to know him over time, and then he came up with this idea, and he came home one day and he said, this is a film, and he read it out to us, and I was like, this is bizarre, but I mean, hey, in Karan we trust, and let's go with it.
In Karan we trust. Okay, Nakul, and how did your association come about, deciding to produce content such as this? And here's where I put the art part of it together. When you see a content like a fairy folk, people who are, more associated or probably watching more popular content, they tend to reduce it into a certain sector, which is called the artsy form of cinema. Mm-hmm. For good, for bad, that is up for debate. But, there would be obviously a defined audience for fairy folk. But your associations, are pretty much definitive in what you have associated with, in these recent times also. Whether आपकी और अजय की क्रांतिकारी कविताएं हो गई, all those recitals also is something that people are raving about on social media. So how did this come about, this film?
So firstly, Griha, I know you and I have been trying to do this for the last couple of years and it's never materialized. I'm so happy this is happening. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, that is one. Secondly, I exist in this room solely because I'm a fanboy of all these people. Karan is given the last few years of his life to this. The road to making this has not been easy. We were 2 weeks away from shooting this in 2018 and the investors had pulled out, and Gaur has single-handedly, I think, stuck through this. And of course, he's got Rasika and Mukul who've come on board. And, so I was originally supposed to be doing a part in the film, which I really wanted to. It eventually didn't happen because television sucks the life out of you. But eventually, we have a little production company with Ajay, Alek, who's also part of the film, and me. And in a very small way, we're like fanboys who are just part of this. But these are the heroes and these are the guys who've really put together this film. So I just want to be always in a room where there are people who are smarter than me, older than me, and better looking than me. And this is that room.
Karan, everybody who decided to join this chat room was earlier pulling your leg about whether you've woken up on time or whether this is early. I believe you are quite a night bird. You're doing your things late in the night, graveyard shift like we call it. But this, improvisational film and acting, this space has not really been dealt with a lot. And when I happened to see the rushes, of course, Divya shared it with me. The word that Mukul used was bizarre. I've not harped too much on it, but it's intriguing. Bizarre also is borderline intriguing. People would want to actually, okay, ye kya hai? What is it? I mean, we'd want to see more of it. It was just 2 minutes of content, and I really wanted to see the conversation, what is happening. I got the story with it. But that is the kind of intrigue factor that Fairy Folk, brought about. All set for Sydney, but before that happens, you'd have to actually explain to me, how did this idea really come about?
I think it was, there were two. First thing was the idea of the movie, and then to do it improvisationally was a little different. But I mean, just to say that, like with improv, the reason I try to stray away from stuff like, it's the first time ever and all that stuff in India and all this, because many people have done it before. It's like Tithi and all these other really great movies that came out. They have so much improvisational within them. Like non-actors, especially when you bring it to set, it's just really nice to just let them speak and let the other people sort of, curve around them and sort of include them into the scene itself. So I thought that it would be cool for this being improvisation, because I was watching a lot of films which were 100% done improvisationally. They would just have a script from A to B, and then they would just, all the scenes in the middle, the actors would come in and do the scene, and then the edit was just where you actually write. You write in the edit, you don't write. I mean, you write as a script as well, and then you have to give everybody a piece of paper which tells every character walking into a scene what they're going to be doing and their motivations and all that stuff. And then you just sort of watch this like a chemical reaction occur, and then you take it into the editing room and you sort of shape it. That's pretty much how it was. So I thought it'd be fun doing it like that, because I was writing a lot, and I spent about 6 years between that time just writing one script and then rewriting that script and then redoing it again 3 different times to fit different budgets, trying to get it off the ground. And it was just so much of writing dialogue, and I was just exhausted with it for a very long time. And I was just I can't write more dialogue. So I was just let's just do something like this and see where we land up. It's just scary. That's all it is. It's just very risky. It's it's very risky. And when you getting producers, I mean, other than something like getting Nakuul and getting these guys on board, which are people that we know that sort of trust us and can also help us with, the finances that we need to get something like this off the ground, or based on sheer trust. Because when I walked into other producers, like studios, which I walked to, and they were agreeing to give me a lot more money for this. But the issue is that they would always have a say in how we do it. And I knew that if you bring one of them onto set, they will get freaked out and they get scared about these 15-minute long takes where it sounds like people are just speaking nonsense. But you're sort of listening to, and you're trying to pick parts that that you can edit in and edit out and all those things. And I think that can get scary for producers, but it was okay. It was very bad for me as well, risky-wise. But I think once you get edit, that you sort of fix this. So it's completely a trust thing. But I think once you make a film like this and it comes out, making another movie like this makes it a little easier, because people know that this process works. I mean, as far as I think. I mean, other people might think it doesn't
Was
work.
it scary for you guys also when you got on board? Did you think that you'd be able to pull it off? Because the chemistry is on point, Rasika and Mukul, because obviously, comes naturally and the conversation's a part of it. But did you think it'll be that natural? Would you be able to pull it off? Was that scare or the feeling really there behind your...
Not at all. I was very, very excited about the idea of the process, and it was as much fun as I had imagined it to be. In fact, it was even more fun. Whenever you get a script, sometimes 90% of the times the dialogues are really bad. And most of my time as an actor is spent in trying to figure how to make this, how to connect to this dialogue and work with my co-actor to make it something meaningful, And पूरा time वहीं निकल जाता है तो और कुछ करने का वक्त ही नहीं मिलता. So I was delighted that here's a time where you can just say whatever you want and do whatever you want. And in fact, when people speak in everyday life, they speak a lot of nonsense. And somehow it just makes sense, right? You don't speak very logically. You mean something, but you end up saying something which sort of resembles what you mean. And, it has all those beautiful sort of mistakes, which get very corrected in dialogue when we write. Dialogue is too logical. It's exactly what the person is thinking. And whatever little mistakes you make in life and the way you speak and the way you articulate, those are kind of lost, and that's very boring. And in an improvisational film, it's all there. And when I watched the film, actually, some of the dialogue is so good because it was not scripted. It was just things that people came up with when the director had sort of introduced us to a situation and had allowed us to do whatever we wanted. And then, of course, it also edited it so that it made sense. And I'm sure that must have been a nightmare for Karan, but it was an absolute joyride for me as an actor. And also we shot linearly, right? So even if we shot in the same location, we went to it back and forth. It's not like we normally shoot a film or a show where you go to the location and shoot all the scenes in that location. I think we had some 5 scenes in Film City, for example, and we went back to Film City 5 times after we had shot the scenes preceding that scene, because we didn't know what would really happen in those scenes. So we couldn't shoot it location-wise. So both of these things is a delight for an actor, and I totally had so much fun.
But Mukul, wasn't it very, very exciting? How do you draw a line? Because you guys know each other like the back of your hand, and obviously, and how do you probably, do that to not really meander off and talk something which is not part of the character? How do you do that? Because you are improvising by the end of it.
So I remember, you were asking earlier about whether we were nervous or not about this. I was very excited about doing this. It's an actor's delight. If with long takes, I think one take was as long as 15, 20 minutes. Some takes were as long as that. You've got the freedom to move where you want. They're not marks you have to hit. Karan did tell us there are certain hotspots which are, better focus for some cameras, but that's about it. It was just an indicator. You could do what you want, you just run with it. And he would just give these little instructions in each actor's ear, take to take and say, okay, this is what I want you to focus on now, or this is my instruction, and that's it. And we'd run with it. So it was like doing theater. It was great. I struggled on day one. I remember I really struggled on the opening scene. And I think it's that trade-off that Karan's talking about, it's not like there was no script. He had a script. He had 82 scenes, if I recall, where there was a clear plot of, what's going to happen. But, what is going to be filled in wasn't very clear. So that's why we had to shoot it linearly, because it depends on how you color it and fill it in. The next scene is dependent on that. But there was that. And I think there's this whole trade-off, which is also true with regular improv as an art form, is how much are you just following the dialogue line by line, or how much are you trying to drive to the end of the scene? Because you kind of know that the scene has to go there.
This is so exciting, Nakuul. I'm just, wondering how could you stay away from not acting in this film? Producing it when you knew that this is what is going on, it is actually exciting just to listen to it. So I'm sure acting in it would have been a different story altogether.
Griha, I was listening to this conversation, and what Rasika said was so true. 90% of the times they're just struggling with the dialogue, and to make it ours and to make it authentic and to not make it sound like a dialogue. Especially I come from a world which is predominantly a lot of television, where dialogues are all like melodramatic or, big adjectives. How do you make it yours? So I think like 2 things which I really, I'm jealous of is that they got to shoot linear, which as actors rarely do you ever get. You're doing the climax on the first day and then you're going back and playing, So I love that process, man. I recently got a chance to do that in one of my projects. And that was a lot of fun. And I could see the difference. You literally build and pace your sort of graph and dialogues again, like to improvise. Actually, I wanted to ask both of you, yeah, because especially when you're real partners, how easy is it or difficult it is especially because you're improvising, nothing is scripted, for some of your real sort of like the banter which might happen in person to spill into these characters because you're still playing like partners, right? And I'm yet to see the film, so I'm really like waiting to see that, because I feel if I was to do it, that would be a real like challenge for me. How was it for both of you?
I mean, being a couple in life and on screen is actually the same thing as being the person you are and playing a character. So you allow certain things of yourself to remain because that you can't deny it, and you try and do something more interesting. Also because you're not the same person every day, and you're not one kind of person every day. Similarly, you're not one kind of couple every day. You don't have one kind of relationship every day, as all of us must know about relationships. They're very varied every day. So I felt that I don't have to not allow something from the relationship between Mukul and Rasika to find its way into a relationship between Ritika and Mohit. I thought that's not something I can actually do even if I try. So it's if I have to just make myself feel comfortable कि अगर उसमें से कुछ आ गया तो अच्छा ही है. It'll probably enrich what I'm doing. And Karan is smart enough to know what he wants to keep and not want to keep, so I don't have to worry about it. So that's how I sort of felt about that. Also because we are not the same with each other every day either, right? It's so different.
No, I think in that sense it's also a help when you have you don't have a script with dialogues, because there's no question of preempting or knowing what the other person is going to say or how they're going to say it. I mean, every day in every scene, I was constantly surprised by what she was doing and allowing, and it's great. I mean, and it's not like the second take would be the same. Second take would be something completely different. And there's enough respect and trust that that you're trusting the other person, that they know what they're doing, and you're just building off that, and it's great. And you're trusting Karan to say, if he doesn't like where this is going, he's going to call cut and he's going to give a different instruction in the next take, and that's fine. So just do your job, of being, which, like I said, perhaps I struggled with it the first day, but then it came in.
I always have this.
All right, okay.
Now when
you're babysitting, I can see you're babysitting.
I'm so sorry. The fairest folk had to come in and be Because that's Girah and that's Agi.
Gorgeous.
And that's Sufi.
Nakuul, you are 100%. I know you guys keep saying that this is how you guys look at babies, but you have stolen this child from somewhere. This cannot be blonde hair and blue eyes so much, bro.
I know. Dude, he's an ambassador for fairy folk. He's like that day, Anukampa was saying he's the fairest folk.
He is.
Every day they dye his hair.
I'm so
my God.
I'm so sorry.
And Sufi's entry has obviously preempted me for my final question, which is, of course, the film going to the Sydney Film Festival. How excited are you guys for that?
Yeah. Pretty tough. I mean,
I would love to go to the festival, but nobody's asked me.
No, but we just even I'm not being, but I'm saying I think I think Mukul is going, and our producer who helped make all of this possible, Anukampa, she was a part of that, so she's also going, and our cinematographer Abhinay, who does a lot more.
Why is Rasika not going? She's the co-actor.
Thank you, Griha. I've been wanting to ask that question. Thank you for asking it on my behalf.
Griha, you don't know. You don't know the story from the industry that Akshay Kumar and Rasika Dugal don't have dates till 2032. That's a true story. Karan doesn't know about Akshay Kumar, but he knows about Rasika.
It's not true.
Sangal is not being missed on this call. That is
Okay. Now, one final thing before I actually, let you guys go. Like I said, very interesting film, but how are you planning to, market it here in the country so that more and more people, get to see it, warm up to a cinema like this? How is that going to happen?
I think I have to answer. I don't actually know. I wish I knew this answer because I have realized that there is no specific way of marketing a movie. It just has to be, the marketing movie it's a short-term gain sort of thing. But if you're here for the long term, then it doesn't really matter because it just sticks. It'll sit somewhere and it will find something that happened for it. And we sort of work through that. But in the short term, we try to get as many, we have to follow the same process to a large extent, which is basically social media, and try to burst into that and see as much as we can, penetration that we can get through that. And I think that's it. I have no other.
I think most of it should be through here, right? Because a lot of films and, and again, take that liberty of using the word content is, evenly marketed on social media because, or for that matter, Nakuul, your mini series, people are talking so much about it. And it is all on social media. I got to know it through it because obviously, unfortunately or fortunately, my body of work has just gotten restricted to a certain sphere where I have to dabble with too much of hard news and stuff. So I do not get time to do this. But it's when I actually go to my phone and see what is on social media is when I got to know about it. And I am too excited to watch that also now. So don't you think that really matters? That these are the things that's really working for, a thing like Fairy Folk, which is in the same sphere where people would warm up to a piece like that because of social media? Do you think that will work?
When Share came out, right, social media had not even, I don't think Instagram existed. Twitter was there, but very few of us probably were on it. And even at that point, I think it found its audience. It had a theater release, then it found a platform, and then it found its own little sort of niche cult audience, right? And I think that's really cool about Gaur, Rasika, everyone involved in the film. That I don't think Gaur ever thinks of that the world needs to watch it. He wants to make it, and I think that authenticity and that's purity at work, right? But I think times have changed. Social media now is such a beautiful animal, if you can say that if there is something authentic, original, and honest out there, it will find its own foot soldiers to promote it. You don't even need an army behind it. You will find its own and we're really hoping that it does. And we have Rasika and Mukul helming it. I hope that people will find a way whenever he brings it here, because if it's Karan Gour's film, it'll travel the world. It'll travel to every festival. Till Karan has 50 stamps on his passport before it comes to India. So, but I think whenever it does, I'm pretty sure it'll find its audience here. Yeah, I don't think we're worried about that.
And I'll be one of the foot soldiers to actually promote that film on social media. I'll do my bit because I'm already excited and intrigued, I said at the beginning of the interview. Guys, thank you so much for doing this. All excited about Fairy Folk, and all the best for the Sydney Film Festival and also for the film to come out and for more and more people to watch it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Thank you.